You're sitting in your living room right now. And if you're honest with yourself, you can feel it. That subtle weakness in your legs when you stand up. The way stairs have become just a little bit harder. The muscle that seems to be disappearing despite everything you've tried. And here's what nobody wants to tell you. This isn't just aging. This is your body's pleasure-pain balance tipping in the wrong direction, and you've been unconsciously pushing it there for years. I'm going to talk to you the way Dr. Anna Lembke talks to her Stanford patients. Because you deserve the truth, not another sales pitch. You're intelligent. You've spent decades making informed decisions. You read labels. You question your doctors. You're not looking for miracles. You're looking for evidence. And that's exactly what I'm going to give you. Here's the reality. Every single year after 60, you lose between 3 and 8% of your muscle mass. Not might lose, will lose. Unless you intervene. And I know what you're thinking because I've heard it from thousands of people just like you. I've tried the protein powders. I've bought the resistance bands. I take my supplements. Nothing works. But here's what Dr. Lembke would tell you. You've been seeking pleasure when you should have been seeking balance. Let me explain what that means. For the past several decades, you've made thousands of tiny choices. Take the elevator instead of the stairs. That's more comfortable. Drive to the store instead of walk. That's easier. Skip the workout because you're tired. That feels better in the moment. Every single one of those choices gave you immediate pleasure, immediate comfort, immediate relief. And your brain loved it. That's dopamine working exactly as it should. But here's the problem. Every time you chose short-term pleasure, you were borrowing against long-term pain. And now, that debt is coming due in the form of sarcopenia, weakness, and the terrifying loss of independence you see approaching. This is the pleasure-pain balance that Dr. Lembke talks about in her work at Stanford. Your brain maintains an equilibrium. When you tip too far toward pleasure, your brain compensates by tipping toward pain. Not immediately, not obviously, but inevitably. The comfort you've been choosing has been slowly, quietly stealing your muscle, your strength, your mobility. And the pharmaceutical industry wants you to believe you need their expensive solutions. The supplement companies want you to buy their powders and pills. But what if the answer is simpler than that? What if it's about working with your body's natural repair mechanisms instead of fighting against them? Stanford researchers studying muscle protein synthesis during sleep made a discovery that changes everything. They found that your body rebuilds muscle most effectively during specific sleep cycles, but only if you provide the precise nutrients at the precise time. Not supplements, not medications, food, real, whole food that you can buy at any grocery store. 3 specific fruits, consumed before bed, that activate your body's overnight muscle repair systems. Now, I can see some of you getting excited, thinking this is going to be easy. Let me stop you right there. This is not easy. If it were easy, everyone would be doing it, and you wouldn't be losing muscle. This requires discipline. This requires consistency. This requires you to eat these 3 fruits every single night. Not when it's convenient, not when you remember, but every night. It requires patience because you won't feel stronger tomorrow or next week. It requires belief in delayed gratification, which is the opposite of everything our culture has trained you to expect. But this is precisely how you restore the pleasure-pain balance. You choose temporary discomfort now, the discipline of a nightly routine, the patience to wait for results, the consistency even when you don't feel like it, to avoid permanent pain later, the pain of frailty, the pain of dependence, the pain of watching your children have to take care of you because you can no longer take care of yourself. The 3 fruits are Tart, Cherries, Kiwi, and Prunes. And before you dismiss this as too simple to work, let me tell you why each one matters. Tart cherries reduce the inflammation that's blocking your muscle recovery right now. They improve your sleep quality, and they provide anthocyanins that directly support muscle repair at the cellular level. Kiwi gives you the vitamin C your body needs for collagen synthesis, and collagen is the framework your muscles attach to. It also provides serotonin precursors that deepen your sleep during the exact phases when muscle repair peaks. Prunes provide boron, which strengthens the bone-muscle connection, and polyphenols that enhance your body's ability to use protein during the overnight fasting state. This isn't folklore. This isn't your grandmother's home remedy. This is biochemistry backed by Stanford research. But here's what Dr. Lembke would emphasize. The science only works if you do the work. The research means nothing if you don't apply it consistently. Knowledge without discipline is just entertainment. I know what some of you are thinking. I've been burned before. I've tried things that didn't work. Why should I believe this? And that's exactly the right question to ask. You should be skeptical. But here's the difference. This isn't promising you pleasure. It's not promising you easy results or instant gratification. It's promising you balance. It's asking you to trade temporary discomfort for long-term strength. It's asking you to invest 3 months of consistent effort for potentially years of maintained independence. And let's be brutally honest about what's at stake here. You're not just fighting to maintain muscle mass. You're fighting to maintain your dignity, your autonomy, your ability to live life on your terms instead of someone else's. Every day you delay intervention is a day you lose muscle you'll never get back. Every week you wait is a week closer to needing help with tasks you've done independently your entire life. This isn't fear-mongering, this is reality. And you're smart enough to know it. The seniors who succeed with this aren't the ones who try it casually. They're the ones who treat it like medicine. They set alarms. They prepare the fruits in advance. They track their compliance. They understand that this is a prescription written by their own commitment to their future self. They embrace the temporary discomfort of discipline because they've calculated the cost of not acting, and it's far too high. You're 60, 70, maybe 75 years old. You've accumulated decades of wisdom, of experience, of perspective that younger people simply don't have. You understand delayed gratification in ways they never will. You've built careers, raised families, created value in the world through sustained effort over time. You know that anything worth having requires sacrifice. So why would rebuilding your body be any different? Dr. Lembke teaches that we've become a nation addicted to dopamine hits, to instant pleasure, to avoiding all discomfort. We've lost our ability to sit with temporary pain in service of lasting well-being. But you're different. You're from a generation that understands discipline, that values evidence over emotion, that's willing to do hard things if the reasoning is sound. That's your competitive advantage. That's why this will work for you when it won't work for people who just want another quick fix. The research shows that muscle protein synthesis during sleep can be enhanced by up to 40% with proper nutrient timing. 40%. That's not marginal improvement. That's the difference between declining and rebuilding. That's the difference between losing independence and maintaining it. That's the difference between your children worrying about you and your children marveling at your vitality. But here's the part nobody tells you. You can't buy this result. You can't delegate it. You can't shortcut it. You have to earn it through consistency, night after night, week after week, month after month. And that's actually good news, because it means the result is entirely within your control. You don't need your doctor's permission. You don't need expensive equipment. You don't need a gym membership or a personal trainer. You need 3 fruits and the discipline to eat them every single night before bed. Some of you are ready to start tonight. You feel the urgency. You understand that every day matters. Others are still skeptical, still waiting for someone to tell you it's definitely going to work before you commit. But Dr. Lembke would remind you, certainty is a luxury you can't afford. The evidence suggests this works. Your alternatives are getting worse every day. The only question is whether you're willing to trade 3 months of discipline for the possibility of years of strength. I'm not going to tell you this is easy. I'm not going to promise you'll feel 20 years younger. I'm not going to pretend you'll build massive muscles or run marathons. What I will tell you is that the seniors who've applied this protocol consistently for 90 days report being able to climb stairs without holding the railing. They report carrying their own groceries. They report playing with their grandchildren without fear of falling. They report sleeping better, feeling steadier, living more confidently. And those aren't miraculous transformations. Those are the natural results of giving your body what it needs when it needs it. You've lived long enough to know that sustainable change doesn't come from extreme measures. It comes from modest interventions applied consistently over time. It comes from respecting your body's natural processes instead of trying to force results through willpower alone. It comes from understanding that the pleasure-pain balance isn't something you manipulate. It's something you restore through patient, evidence-based practices. So here's what I'm asking you to do. Make a decision. Not a tentative "I'll try it and see how I feel" decision. A real commitment. 90 days, 3 fruits, every night, no excuses, no exceptions, no rationalization. Treat it like a prescription, because that's what it is. A prescription for maintaining the independence you've worked your entire life to build and protect. And then, after 90 days, evaluate the results honestly. Are your legs stronger? Are you steadier? Are you more confident? Let the evidence speak for itself. Because at the end of the day, you're not just choosing whether to eat 3 fruits before bed. You're choosing what kind of 70-year-old, 80-year-old, 90-year-old you're going to be. You're choosing whether you'll be the person who took action based on evidence, or the person who waited until it was too late. You're choosing between short-term comfort and long-term strength. And I think you already know which choice serves your future self better. The research is done. The protocol is clear. The only variable left is you. Your commitment, your consistency, your willingness to embrace temporary discomfort for lasting results. That's the pleasure-pain balance in action. That's how you reverse muscle loss after 60. Not through miracles or magic, but through discipline, evidence, and respect for your body's remarkable ability to heal and rebuild when given what it needs. The question isn't whether this works. The question is whether you'll do what works. They don't want your opinion. They want peer-reviewed data. These are the people who spent 40 years in corner offices, operating rooms, research labs, and engineering firms making decisions that affected thousands of lives and millions of dollars. They didn't get there by trusting hunches or following trends. They got there by analyzing evidence, questioning assumptions, and demanding proof before committing resources. And now that they're retired, they apply that same rigorous analytical framework to their own health with even more intensity. Because the stakes are deeply personal. Walk into their homes, and you'll find subscriptions to JAMA, the New England Journal of Medicine, Nature, and The Lancet, stacked on their coffee tables. They read Harvard Health Letter cover to cover. They attend Stanford medicine lectures on Zoom. They've bookmarked PubMed and know how to navigate through abstracts to find the methodology sections that reveal whether a study is actually worth trusting. When their doctor suggests a new medication, they go home and read the clinical trials before filling the prescription. They know the difference between a randomized controlled trial and an observational study. They understand statistical significance, confidence intervals, and relative risk versus absolute risk. They are, in every sense, professional skeptics who've earned the right to demand excellence. These people have watched supplement companies make outrageous claims that collapsed under scrutiny. They've seen fitness trends promise transformation and deliver nothing but wasted time and money. They've witnessed the alternative medicine industry rely on desperate people with pseudoscience wrapped in scientific-sounding language. And because they've seen these patterns repeatedly, they've developed extremely sensitive detection systems for bullshit. Show them a testimonial and they'll ask where the control group was. Promise them results and they'll demand to know the mechanism of action. Use words like breakthrough or miracle, and they'll close your tab instantly. But here's what makes them such a powerful audience. When you get it right, they're not cynical. They're discerning. They desperately want solutions to their muscle loss, their declining strength, their diminishing mobility. They feel their legs weakening when they climb stairs. They notice they can't carry groceries as easily as they could 5 years ago. They're watching their bodies decline, and it's terrifying because they understand exactly what's coming. Frailty, dependence, institutional care, loss of the autonomy they've fiercely protected their entire lives. So they're actively searching for interventions that actually work. They're just unwilling to waste time on anything that can't prove itself through legitimate scientific validation. Their income bracket reflects their career success. They're earning between $120,000 and $300,000 annually in retirement through pensions, investments, and consulting work. Money isn't their barrier, belief is. They'll spend $5,000 monthly on proven interventions without blinking, but they won't spend $5 on something that smells like snake oil. They're concentrated in specific geographic areas where research institutions and intellectual culture dominate. The San Francisco Bay Area, Boston, Seattle, London, Amsterdam, Stockholm, and Sydney's North Shore. These are places where dinner party conversations include discussions of recent papers in CL. and debates about longevity research. When you target them correctly, you don't sell them anything. You present evidence and let them reach their own conclusions. You cite the Stanford research on muscle protein synthesis during sleep. You explain the biochemical pathways by which anthocyanins in Tart cherries reduce inflammation that blocks muscle recovery. You detail how vitamin C from kiwi provides the collagen synthesis necessary for muscle attachment. You describe the role of boron from prunes in strengthening the bone-muscle interface. You give them enough scientific detail that they can verify it themselves, and then you trust their intelligence to evaluate whether the evidence supports the protocol. And when they conclude the science is sound, something remarkable happens. They don't just try your protocol, they become advocates. They tell their friends at the university club, their former colleagues, their professional networks. They write detailed reviews explaining why the evidence convinced them. They become the most valuable marketing asset you could possibly have because other intelligent, skeptical people trust their judgment. One converted evidence-demanding professional brings 10% more just like them. Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. These people would rather die than burden their children, and that's not hyperbole. It's the defining principle of their entire existence. Independence isn't just a preference or a nice-to-have quality. It's their identity, their dignity, their non-negotiable requirement for a life worth living. They've spent 60, 70 years taking care of themselves, making their own decisions, solving their own problems. And the thought of becoming dependent on anyone, especially their children, is more terrifying than death itself. They're concentrated in places where self-reliance is cultural DNA, Colorado MO, untamed towns, the Pacific Northwest, Scandinavian countries where individualism meets social responsibility, Melbourne's outdoor-oriented communities, Austin's independent spirit, and Edinburgh's stoic pragmatism. These are regions where people value capability, where being able to handle your own affairs is a mark of character, where asking for help feels like admitting defeat. Their income sits comfortably in the middle to upper middle class range, $75,000 to $150,000, enough to maintain their lifestyle without excess, earned through careers where competence and reliability mattered more than flash. But lately, they've been watching something horrifying unfold. Their own parents decline into dependence. They've seen their mother need help getting dressed. They've watched their father unable to drive anymore, stuck waiting for someone to take him to appointments. They've witnessed the slow erosion of autonomy, the gradual surrender of independence, the painful transition from self-sufficient adult to someone who needs constant assistance. And they've made themselves a promise, a vow they repeat like a mantra. This will never be me. I will never do this to my children. I will never become that burden. Every single health decision they make filters through this obsessive fear of dependence. They don't care about six-pack abs, or looking younger, or impressing anyone. They care about one thing: can I still function independently? Can I carry my own groceries from the car? Can I climb the stairs in my house without holding the railing? Can I get up from the floor if I fall down? Can I travel without needing assistance? Can I live in my own home on my own terms? These are the questions that keep them awake at 3 a.m, sweating with anxiety about a future they can feel approaching. They're fighters by nature. They've joined gyms, and they're showing up 3 times a week doing strength training, even though it's hard and uncomfortable. They're watching YouTube videos about senior fitness and trying to follow along. They've bought resistance bands and dumbbells, and they're genuinely trying. But despite all this effort, they can feel themselves losing ground. Their legs aren't as steady as they were last year. They need to use their arms to push themselves up from chairs now. They've started avoiding activities that require physical confidence because they're scared they'll fail, they'll fall, they'll reveal their declining capability to others. Heat terror isn't abstract, it's brutally specific. They're approximately 3 years from needing their daughter to move back home to help. Maybe 2 years from needing someone to drive them places. 18 months from being unable to maintain their house alone. They can see the timeline of their own decline, and it's accelerating faster than they can stop it through willpower and gym memberships alone. They need intervention that actually works, not motivation or inspiration. They need something that reverses the trajectory before they cross the threshold from independent to dependent, because once that line is crossed, they believe there's no coming back. Hey, wake up and immediately check their Oura ring to see how their sleep scores compared to yesterday's protocol adjustments. They're wearing a continuous glucose monitor even though they're not diabetic, because they want to see exactly how different foods affect their metabolic response in real time. They've got their VO2 max tested quarterly, and they track the trends in spreadsheets with color-coded graphs. Their bathroom cabinet looks like a research laboratory, with rows of supplements organized by mechanism of action, each one carefully researched, dosage optimized, and tracked for measurable effects. These aren't hypochondriacs or health-anxious warriors. These are optimization engineers who've turned their own biology into their most important project. They're concentrated in the epicenters of technological and scientific innovation: Silicon Valley, Boulder's tech corridor, Stockholm's startup scene, Zurich's precision-minded culture, Sydney's eastern suburbs where wellness meets wealth, and Copenhagen's biohacking community. Their income reflects either successful tech careers or entrepreneurial exits, $150,000 to $500,000 annually, and often significantly more. Money is no object when it comes to longevity interventions. They'll spend $3,000 monthly without hesitation if the science supports it, because they view their bodies as appreciating assets that deserve premium investment. These people don't just follow health trends, they create them. They were taking NMN supplements before most people had heard of NAD+ precursors. They started metformin protocols based on early longevity research before it became mainstream. They've experimented with rapamycin cycling, tried every iteration of intermittent fasting from 16/8 to alternate day protocols, built home cold plunge setups, installed red light therapy panels, and purchased hyperbaric oxygen chambers for their garages. They follow Peter Attia's podcast religiously and can discuss the nuances of Zone 2 cardio training and lipid particle analysis. They quote Andrew Huberman on circadian optimization and dopamine regulation. They've read David Sinclair's research papers, not just his popular books. But here's what makes them different from mere health enthusiasts. They're scientifically literate enough to distinguish legitimate research from wellness industry pseudoscience. They know how to read actual studies, not just headlines about studies. They understand statistical power. They recognize when sample sizes are too small. They can spot when mechanistic research in mice hasn't been validated in humans. They're not easy marks for marketing hype. They're sophisticated consumers of scientific literature who demand mechanism-specific explanations before they'll try anything new. When it comes to muscle loss after 60, they've already tried every intervention they could find, with legitimate research backing. They've optimized their protein intake to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. They've experimented with leucine supplementation timing. They've tested creatine monohydrate protocols. They're doing resistance training with progressive overload principles. But they're still losing muscle mass because they haven't yet found the complete optimization strategy. They're missing a piece of the puzzle, and they know it because they're tracking their DEXA scans and watching their lean mass decline despite everything they're doing. Target them with precise biochemical language, and they'll lean in immediately. Tell them eating these 3 fruits before bed activates mTOR pathways during sleep architecture phases when muscle protein synthesis peaks, and they'll want to know the exact mechanisms. Explain how anthocyanins modulate inflammatory cytokines that inhibit anabolic signaling, how vitamin C cofactors enhance collagen cross-linking necessary for muscle fiber attachment, how boron influences hormone cascades affecting protein utilization efficiency. Give them that level of detail, and they'll not only try your protocol, they'll measure it, optimize it, and share their results with every biohacker they know. Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Their grandchildren are the reason they get up in the morning, the reason they take care of themselves, the reason they want to live as long as possible, with as much vitality as they can maintain. Everything else in their life, the house, the savings, the hobbies, the routines, all of it exists in service of being present, active, and capable for those little faces that light up when Grandma and Grandpa walk through the door. They don't just want to watch their grandchildren grow up from the sidelines. They want to be down on the floor building block towers. They want to chase toddlers around the backyard. They want to carry the little ones on their shoulders. They want to teach them to ride bikes, take them camping, show them how to bake cookies, pass down family traditions through active participation, not passive observation. They live in suburban neighborhoods across America, in the comfortable communities outside London and Manchester, along Australia's coastal cities where families gather, in the family-oriented towns throughout Germany where generations stay connected. Their income is solidly middle class, $60,000 to $120,000, earned through decades of steady work as teachers, nurses, small business owners, civil servants, tradespeople who built stable lives, focused on family and community. They're not wealthy, but they're comfortable enough to prioritize what matters most. And what matters most is being there for their grandchildren in every possible way. But lately something devastating has been happening. They've felt their body betraying their intentions. Last month they got down on the floor to play with their 3-year-old grandson and couldn't get back up without grabbing furniture and struggling in a way that scared the child. Their legs shook and their knees hurt, and they saw the worry flash across their daughter's face. 2 weeks ago, they had to say no to playing tag in the backyard because they were terrified they'd fall and ruin the whole afternoon. Yesterday, their granddaughter asked them to pick her up, and they had to make an excuse because they weren't sure their legs could handle the weight safely anymore. Each of these moments feels like a small death, a piece of their grandparent identity slipping away. They've started making calculations that break their hearts. Their grandson's soccer season starts in 3 months, and the field has bleachers that require climbing. Can they still do that, or will they have to watch from the parking lot? Their granddaughter's dance recital is coming up, and it's on the 2nd floor with no elevator. Will they miss it because they can't handle the stairs? There's a family camping trip planned for next summer, and they desperately want to go. But camping requires physical capability they're not sure they'll still have in 6 months. They can see themselves being left behind, excluded not from cruelty, but from necessity. And the thought is absolutely unbearable. They watch other grandparents at the playground, the ones who can still run and play and lift and carry, and they feel a painful mixture of envy and fear. That used to be them. When did it change? More importantly, can it be reversed before they lose too much ground? They're willing to do absolutely anything that might help them stay physically present in their grandchildren's lives. They'll take medications, do exercises, change their diet, follow any protocol that gives them a fighting chance to be the grandparent who plays, not the grandparent who watches from a chair making encouraging comments while dying inside from the inability to participate. They've seen the other side, and it changed everything. They've laid in hospital beds staring at ceiling tiles wondering if they'd ever go home. They felt their bodies fail catastrophically. The heart attack that dropped them in the kitchen, the stroke that stole half their movement, the cancer diagnosis that required months of brutal treatment, the emergency surgery that nearly didn't end well. They've experienced what it feels like when your body stops being something you live in and becomes something actively trying to kill you. And when they survived, when they walked out of those hospital doors, they made themselves a promise. Never again will I take my health for granted. Never again will I ignore warning signs. Never again will I assume tomorrow is guaranteed. They live near major medical centers because they've learned the hard way that proximity to excellent healthcare isn't paranoia. It's survival strategy. They're scattered across major metropolitan areas worldwide, concentrated anywhere world-class hospitals exist, because they know that when crisis strikes, minutes matter and medical expertise matters even more. Their income ranges widely, from $50,000 to $200,000, because health crises don't discriminate by economic class, but what unites them isn't money. It's the profound psychological shift that comes from nearly dying and getting a second chance. These people are hypervigilant in ways others can't understand unless they've been through it themselves. They attend every follow-up appointment religiously. They take their medications exactly as prescribed with alarms set, so they never miss a dose. They monitor symptoms obsessively because they know their body can betray them without warning. They've joined survivor support groups where everyone speaks the same language of medical trauma and hard-won gratitude. They celebrate survival anniversaries the way others celebrate birthdays because those dates represent the moment they were given their life back. But survival came with a terrifying awareness. Their bodies are fragile, decline is real and prevention is everything. They've watched fellow patients in their support groups experience secondary crises. They've seen how a fall leads to a hip fracture, how a hip fracture leads to hospitalization, how hospitalization leads to muscle wasting and pneumonia and cognitive decline and sometimes death. They've witnessed firsthand the cascade of deterioration that starts with something as simple as weak legs and ends with catastrophic outcomes. And they're absolutely determined not to let that be their story. Muscle loss isn't an abstract concern for them. It's the first domino in a chain reaction they've seen kill people. They understand viscerally that maintaining muscle mass means maintaining stability. Maintaining stability means avoiding falls. Avoiding falls means staying out of hospitals, and staying out of hospitals means staying alive. They've spent too much time in medical facilities already. The smell of antiseptic makes them nauseous. The sound of monitoring equipment triggers their anxiety. They'll do anything, absolutely anything, to avoid going back. When you tell them about a protocol that might prevent muscle decline, you're not selling them on vanity or fitness goals. You're offering them a lifeline that could prevent the next crisis. They don't need convincing about the importance of prevention because they've learned through suffering that once your body fails catastrophically, recovery is brutal and incomplete. They've lost pieces of themselves already: cardiac function, neurological capability, organs removed, mobility permanently compromised. They can't afford to lose anything else. So when presented with evidence that eating 3 specific fruits before bed might preserve their muscle mass and reduce their fall risk and keep them out of emergency rooms, they don't hesitate or procrastinate or wait to see if they feel like it. They start immediately because they know from experience that your body doesn't give warnings before it fails. It just fails.